The message pierced through the usual background chatter of deep space communications, its desperate harmonics catching Lieutenant James O'Neill off guard during his night watch aboard the EFS Hyperion. The signal's pattern was unlike anything in Earth's database, a haunting melody carrying what could only be described as pure terror. "Commander Harrison to the bridge," O'Neill called, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "We're receiving an unregistered distress signal." Commander Diane Harrison emerged from her quarters within minutes, her dark skin reflecting the soft blue glow of the bridge's emergency lights. 20 years of deep space service had taught her that unregistered signals usually meant trouble, and trouble meant she wouldn't be getting much sleep tonight. "Play it," she ordered, settling into her command chair. The bridge filled with an otherworldly chorus of sounds that gradually resolved into broken universal standard, the trade language Earth had developed for potential first contact scenarios. To any species within range. Meridian worlds under attack, crystalline invaders immune to energy weapons, our oceans burn, need immediate assistance, even primitive projectile weapons might. Static interrupted the transmission before it continued, "Billions at risk, please." Harrison leaned forward, her expression hardening. "Source: the Hydra Cluster, Commander," O'Neill reported. "Specifically from HD 789234, about 3 days at maximum jump speed. It's a system of water worlds." The bridge crew exchanged glances. Everyone knew about the Hydra Cluster, it had been on their patrol route for years, though they'd never detected signs of advanced civilization there before. The fact that they were receiving a distress signal now, using terms like primitive to describe Earth technology, suggested whoever was sending it had been watching humanity for some time. "Show me the sensor data," Harrison commanded. The main view screen filled with tactical displays showing massive energy signatures around the third planet of HD 789234. The combat patterns were unlike anything in their database, crystalline ships that seemed to phase through energy weapons, methodically destroying what appeared to be organic vessels that moved through water as easily as space. "Interesting," Harrison mused, studying the patterns. "They're calling us primitive, but they're desperate enough to ask for help anyway. Lieutenant O'Neill, prepare a response on all frequencies." She stood, straightening her uniform. "This is Commander Diane Harrison of the Earth Federation ship Hyperion. We receive your distress call and are prepared to render assistance. Be advised that while our technology may not meet your usual standards, we have extensive experience in adaptive warfare. Please transmit tactical data on your situation." The response came quickly, tinged with both hope and poorly concealed disdain. "Earth vessel, your assistance is appreciated. However, we note your ship still uses metal hulls and chemical propulsion. The crystallites are immune to such primitive, we mean, such conventional approaches." "Perhaps." Harrison cut them off. "With respect, unknown friends, we've reviewed your tactical situation. Primitive doesn't mean ineffective. Sometimes the old ways work best. Transmit your data, and we'll demonstrate." There was a long pause before the response came. "Data transmitting. We are the Meridians. Our civilization evolved in the deep oceans of our worlds, advancing beyond physical materials millennia ago. The crystallites, they adapt to energy weapons instantly. We have lost 3 worlds already." Harrison smiled grimly. "Well then, let's show them something they can't adapt to. Lieutenant O'Neill, signal the fleet. All ships to battle stations. Navigation, plot a jump course to HD 789234. She opened a channel to engineering. "Chief Wong, I need every sonic weapon we've got modified for underwater combat. Time to show these advanced civilizations why Earth's oceans made us who we are." As the Hyperion's engines powered up, Harrison looked at the tactical display again. The Meridians thought Earth technology was primitive because they'd evolved past physical weapons. But they were about to learn that sometimes, the most elegant solution was also the simplest. And humanity had spent centuries perfecting the art of underwater warfare. All hands, she announced shipwide, prepare for combat jump. Let's show the galaxy why they shouldn't underestimate primitive humans. The Hyperion's jump drives engaged, followed by the rest of Earth's deep space fleet. The human ships, crude and primitive by Meridian standards, sliced through space-time toward a battle that would change the galaxy's perception of Earth forever. The human fleet emerged from jump space in perfect formation, their arrival sending ripples through the quantum field that made the crystalline ships pause their assault. Commander Harrison's first view of HD 789234 took her breath away. 3 massive ocean worlds orbited their star in a complex dance, their surfaces gleaming like sapphires under the alien sun. But the beauty was marred by war. Crystalline vessels, geometric shapes that seemed to defy physics, were systematically destroying the organic ships of the Meridians. The alien vessels looked like massive jellyfish, their transparent bodies housing what appeared to be entire cities within. Multiple energy signatures detected, O'Neill reported, his fingers flying over his console. The crystalline vessels are using some kind of phase-shifted beam weapons. They're literally crystallizing the Meridian ships, turning their organic matter into brittle crystal structures. Life signs? Harrison asked, studying the tactical display. Massive readings from the ocean worlds, responded Lieutenant Zara Patel, the ship's xenobiologist. The Meridians appear to be an aquatic species. Their cities exist in underwater pressure zones that would crush a human instantly. But the crystallites they're somehow converting the oceans themselves into crystal, starting from the surface and working down. A new transmission cut through their analysis, the musical tones of the Meridian language now tinged with desperation and confusion. Earth vessels, you arrive with metal ships. Physical weapons. The crystallites will simply phase through. Harrison cut them off. Meridian friends, request permission to approach your command center. And please provide coordinates for the crystallites' next likely target. We've brought some primitive solutions to your advanced problem. The Meridians transmitted coordinates for an underwater city on the 3rd planet, along with approach vectors to their command center, a massive organic structure floating in the upper atmosphere of the second world. As the Hyperion moved closer, Harrison could see why the Meridians were losing. Their technology was incredibly advanced, their ships moved by manipulating quantum fields, their weapons were pure energy, but they had no defense against an enemy that could simply phase through energy barriers and crystallize matter. Commander, Chief Wong's voice came through the comm, sonic weapons are modified and ready. We've also prepared the depth charges with the new quantum destabilizing warheads. They won't know what hit them. Harrison smiled. Sometimes the old ways really were the best. All ships, battle formation Delta. Prepare to deploy underwater combat teams. Let's show these crystallites why Earth's oceans created some of the deadliest predators in known space. The Meridian greeting party that met them in their atmospheric command center was nothing like what Harrison had expected. The aliens were vaguely humanoid but clearly evolved for underwater life. Their translucent skin rippled with bioluminescent patterns, and what looked like gill structures pulsed along their necks. They moved with fluid grace even in the air-filled chamber they'd created for their human guests. I am First Speaker Nixus, the lead Meridian announced, their voice creating patterns of light across their skin. We appreciate your assistance, though we must express concern about your methods. Our scans indicate your ships still use nuclear fusion and chemical propulsion. The crystallites are far beyond such. A massive explosion rocked the command center. Through the transparent walls, Harrison watched as one of the crystalline ships phased through a Meridian energy barrier, and flew straight into a spread of depth charges launched from the human fleet. The quantum destabilizing warheads detonated, sending shockwaves through space that shattered the crystalline vessel into millions of pieces. You were saying? Harrison asked mildly. Sometimes the simplest solution is the most effective. The crystallites adapted to your energy weapons because they're energy-based themselves. But they've never encountered good old-fashioned physical explosions synchronized to disrupt their phase frequency. Nyxus's skin flickered with patterns that the universal translator interpreted as shock and reluctant admiration. Perhaps we have something to learn from your traditional methods. But the crystallites are attacking our deepest cities now. Even if your weapons work in space, surely you cannot. Harrison grinned. First speaker, humanity was born in the oceans, just like you. We've spent centuries perfecting the art of underwater warfare. Trust me, we brought plenty of toys that work in the depths. Now, shall we discuss strategy? As Harrison laid out her battle plans, the Meridians began to understand that they had dramatically underestimated these primitive humans. Sometimes, moving beyond physical weapons wasn't evolution, it was just limiting your options. The ocean depths of HD 789,234's Third World were unlike anything in Earth's records. Bioluminescent creatures created rivers of light through the darkness, and the Meridian cities glowed like constellations in the deep. But now those lights were dimming as the crystallite invasion force pressed deeper, leaving trails of frozen crystal in their wake. Commander Harrison stood in the Hyperion's modified bridge, now filled with pressurized breathing liquid that allowed the human crew to withstand the crushing depths. The breathing fluid felt strange in her lungs, but it was worth it to see first speaker Nyxus's expression of shock when the primitive humans dove their entire fleet beneath the waves. Your bodies can withstand this pressure. With just mechanical assistance? Nyxus asked, their skin pulsing with patterns of amazement. They had insisted on joining the human command ship, curious about these strange Deathworlders who willingly flooded their ships to fight underwater. We've had submarines since before we had spacecraft, Harrison replied, the liquid translator converting her words into vibrations the Meridians could understand. Pressure is just another challenge to overcome. Lieutenant O'Neill, status of the crystallite advance. They're following their usual pattern, Commander, O'Neill reported, his movement slightly slowed by the breathing liquid. Converting water to crystal layer by layer. But they're having trouble maintaining their phase shift underwater, the pressure's affecting them. Harrison smiled, though it was hard to tell through her breathing mask. Just as we predicted. Chief Wong, are the sonic pulse arrays ready? Aye, Commander. Wong's voice came through the comm, modified them based on whale songs, low frequency, maximum penetration. Should play hell with their crystalline structure. A flash of light from above signaled another Meridian city falling to the invaders. The crystallites' ships were less elegant underwater, forced to maintain solid form against the pressure, but they were still devastating. Their crystal conversion beams turned everything they touched into frozen geometric patterns, water, organic matter, even the exotic metals of the Meridian's quantum tech. All ships, battle formation echo, Harrison commanded. Meridian vessels, pull back behind our line. Let's show these crystallites why Earth's oceans bred the most efficient predators in known space. The human fleet moved with practiced precision, their modified engines pushing against the dense water. The crystallites, apparently confused by these primitive metal vessels actually functioning at such depths, turned their conversion beams on the approaching Earth ships. Now! Harrison ordered. Every human vessel activated their sonic arrays simultaneously, sending precisely calibrated sound waves through the water. The effect was immediate and devastating. The crystallite ships, their perfect geometric forms dependent on molecular alignment, began to crack and splinter under the assault. Impossible, one of the Meridian observers exclaimed, their skin flashing with disbelief. Their phase technology should make them immune to physical attacks. Sound isn't just a physical attack, Harrison explained, watching as the crystallite formation broke apart. It's energy and vibration together. Your pure energy weapons couldn't affect them because they could phase shift around them. But sound? Sound travels through anything that has mass. And underwater, it's devastating. The crystallites tried to retreat, but they were surrounded. Some attempted to phase shift, only to discover that the intense pressure and sonic assault disrupted their ability to become intangible. Human depth charges detonated in precise patterns, their shock waves amplified by the dense water, shattering crystalline ships into clouds of glittering fragments. First Speaker Nixis moved closer to Harrison's command station, their bioluminescent patterns showing complex emotions. "We had forgotten," they said softly. "In our drive to advance beyond physical limitations, we forgot the fundamental forces that shaped us. Your people, you never forgot the ocean's lessons." "Different paths of evolution," Harrison replied, watching as her fleet systematically demolished the crystallite attack force. "You went up, into the quantum realm. We went in all directions at once. Sometimes that makes us seem primitive, but it also means we have more tools in our arsenal." The battle continued for hours, human ships working in concert with Meridian vessels. The aliens' quantum technology proved excellent for herding the crystallites into killing zones, where concentrated sonic pulses and depth charges could do their work. By the time the last crystallite ship shattered, the seabed was littered with crystal shards that glowed with their own inner light. "A primitive solution," Nixis observed, "but now their skin patterns showed respect rather than disdain. But elegantly applied. Perhaps our civilizations have much to learn from each other." Harrison nodded, already thinking about the possibilities. "Your quantum tech combined with our understanding of physical warfare. We could create defenses that no enemy could adapt to." She paused, checking the tactical display. "But first, we need to clear the remaining crystallites from your other worlds. Ready for another swimming lesson?" As the fleet regrouped for their next assault, Harrison reflected on the irony. The Meridians had evolved past physical weapons because they saw them as primitive. But here in the depths, where pressure could crush and darkness could blind, humanity's primitive understanding of their ocean origins had proved to be exactly what was needed. Sometimes the oldest lessons were the most valuable. The massive underwater research facility the Meridians called the Deep Synthesis Chamber hummed with activity. Chief Engineer Wong stood before a holographic display, her breathing mask fogging slightly as she explained the modifications to a group of fascinated Meridian scientists. Their bioluminescent patterns pulsed with excitement as they watched the simulation of human sonic weapons combined with their quantum field technology. "The principle is simple," Wong said, manipulating the hologram with practiced ease. "Your quantum fields can shape and focus our sonic pulses with incredible precision. Instead of a broad-spectrum attack, we can target specific molecular frequencies." Commander Harrison watched from the observation platform above, accompanied by First Speaker Nixis. In the 3 days since the initial battle, the alliance between humans and Meridians had evolved from desperate cooperation to genuine collaboration. The crystallites had been driven from the Third World, but long-range sensors showed them massing for a major counterattack. "Your people adapt quickly," Nixis observed, their skin rippling with thoughtful patterns. "Most species we've encountered take years to grasp even basic quantum mechanics, yet your engineers mastered our field technology in days." Harrison smiled behind her mask. "Humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. When we need to understand something to survive, we learn fast." She paused, studying the tactical displays. "And speaking of survival, how goes the evacuation of the outer cities?" "Nearly complete," Nixis replied, their patterns shifting to show concern. "But the crystallites are changing their tactics. They've begun using our own quantum technology against us, salvaged from the cities they've crystallized. Our deep-sea sensors detect them creating some kind of massive quantum matrix." Below, Wong's team had moved from theory to practice. They had modified a standard depth charge, incorporating Meridian quantum field generators. When they tested it in the facility's pressure chamber, the results exceeded all expectations. The quantum field focused the explosion into a precise beam, amplifying its effect while minimizing collateral damage. "Commander." Lieutenant O'Neill's voice came through the calm, urgent but controlled. "Long-range sensors just picked up something unusual. The crystallite fleet isn't just massing, they're merging." combining into some kind of superstructure. Harrison moved to the tactical display, her experienced eyes reading the data quickly. The crystallites had learned from their defeats, adapting in a way no one had expected. Instead of individual ships, they were forming a massive crystalline lattice that stretched for kilometers. They're creating a quantum resonance field, one of the Meridian scientists announced, their patterns showing alarm. If they complete that structure, they could crystallize entire oceans with a single pulse. How long do we have? Harrison asked, already forming plans. 2 hours, maybe 3 before the lattice is complete, O'Neill reported. Wong looked up from her work, her eyes bright with an idea. Commander, what if we turn their strategy against them? The crystallites are linking themselves into one massive structure, making themselves more powerful, but also more vulnerable. Harrison caught on immediately. One target instead of many. But we'd need enough power to affect something that size. We have power, Nixus interjected, their patterns showing sudden understanding. Our quantum cores could provide enough energy to amplify your sonic weapons beyond anything yet attempted. But the delivery system would have to be precise, Wong finished. A fraction of a degree off, and we'd miss our chance. The targeting computers on our ships aren't accurate enough for something this delicate. Harrison watched the Meridian scientists working alongside her human crew, and a solution clicked into place. We don't need computers for targeting, she said. The Meridians can feel quantum fields naturally, it's why their targeting is so precise. If we combine that with human tactical control. A joint operation, Nixus said, their patterns showing excitement. Our sensory abilities, your weapons technology. But it would require direct neural connection between our species. The interface alone. We can handle it, Harrison stated firmly. Humans have been adapting to neural interfaces since before we reached the stars. The question is, can your people trust us enough to link minds? The first speaker's patterns shifted through a complex series of emotions before settling into determination. You came when we called, fought in our depths, and shared your technology freely. If we cannot trust you now, we deserve what the crystallites will do to us. As the combined Human Meridian team rushed to modify their weapons and prepare for the most ambitious joint operation in either species' history, Harrison reflected on how far they'd come. The Meridians had called humans primitive, but now they were willing to link minds with them to save their worlds. Chief Wong, she called down to the research floor. How long to modify the sonic arrays for quantum amplification? An hour for the hardware, Wong replied. But Commander, whoever interfaces with the Meridians will be hitting their brain with more sensory input than any human has ever handled. The neural load alone. I'll do it, Harrison said firmly. I'm asking my crew to take incredible risks, I won't ask them to take one I won't take myself. As the preparations continued at frantic pace, Harrison caught Nixus studying her with their multicolored patterns showing an emotion the translator couldn't quite capture. Something between respect and revelation. You know, the first speaker said softly, we called you primitive when you arrived. We were wrong. You're not primitive, you're primal. You understand fundamental forces in ways we had forgotten. The crystallites thought they could defeat us by being more advanced. Instead, they made us remember what we used to be, through you. The neural interface felt like fire in Commander Harrison's mind. Meridian sensory information flooded her consciousness, quantum fields became visible as complex, interconnected webs, and she could feel the vibrations of the deep ocean as if they were part of her own body. Around her, the combined Human Meridian Fleet moved into position, surrounding the massive crystalline structure that the enemy had become. The crystallite lattice was beautiful in a terrifying way, stretching across the ocean like a geometric spider web made of pure light. Through her enhanced senses, Harrison could feel it pulling at the quantum fabric of space itself, preparing to unleash a pulse that would crystallize everything for thousands of kilometers. Neural load at 85% capacity, Wong's voice seemed to come from both her ears and her mind. Commander, if it goes much higher. I can handle it, Harrison gritted out. The interface was doing more than letting her see quantum fields, it was connecting her to 5 Meridian navigation specialists, their combined consciousness creating a targeting system more precise than any computer. First speaker Nixus's patterns pulsed with concern beside her. Your mind is strong, Commander, but no species has ever sustained this level of quantum awareness without years of evolution to support it. Through the pain, Harrison smiled. That's the difference between our species, first speaker. You evolved to handle this naturally. We just refuse to give up until we make it work. The tactical display showed the crystallite lattice reaching completion. Energy began to build within its structure, preparing for the pulse that would destroy everything in its path. They would only get one shot at this. All ships, final positions, Harrison commanded, her voice carrying through both standard comms and quantum fields. Meridian vessels, quantum field generators at maximum. Human ships, sonic arrays charged and ready. The combined fleet had arranged itself in a complex three-dimensional pattern that Harrison could now see was more than just tactical positioning, it formed its own quantum resonance pattern, one that would focus and amplify their combined attack. Crystallite structure at 98% completion, O'Neill reported. Energy buildup accelerating. They're about to fire. Harrison reached out through the neural interface, feeling the minds of the Meridian specialists merge with her consciousness. Together, they could perceive every quantum field, every sonic frequency, every depth charge's position with perfect clarity. The pain was excruciating, but she pushed through it, using the discipline of 20 years of command to maintain focus. Lieutenant O'Neill, she managed to say, execute attack pattern Leviathan. The human fleet began firing their modified sonic weapons, each blast precisely tuned and focused by Meridian quantum fields. The crystallites tried to phase shift, but the combined attack hit them at every possible quantum frequency simultaneously. Cracks began to appear in their lattice structure. But it wasn't enough. The crystallite structure was too large, too well organized. It began to pulse with blinding energy, preparing to release its crystallizing wave. Through the neural interface, Harrison felt an idea form, not from her mind or any single meridian, but from their combined consciousness. She understood instantly, though the price would be steep. All ships pull back to minimum safe distance, she ordered. First speaker, I need your quantum cores set to overload on my mark. Chief Wong, divert all power to the sonic arrays, including life support. Commander, Wong protested, without life support, the pressure at this depth. We'll crush our ships, yes, Harrison finished. But not before we finish this. Sometimes the primitive solution is to hit something until it breaks, no matter the cost. Understanding rippled through the meridian patterns. Their ships began to pull back, leaving a ring of human vessels surrounding the crystallite structure. Harrison could feel her ship's hull groaning as the pressure systems failed, could feel blood vessels bursting in her brain from the neural load. Now. Everything happened in an instant. The Meridian quantum cores overloaded, releasing pure energy that the human ships caught and channeled through their sonic arrays. The combined force hit the crystallite lattice at the exact moment it tried to release its crystallizing pulse. The opposing energies met in a catastrophic reaction. Harrison's last conscious thought was satisfaction as she watched the massive crystalline structure shatter, its pieces turning to dust that dissolved in the dark water. Then the pressure took her, and everything went black. She awoke in a Meridian medical chamber, her body floating in healing fluid. First speaker Nixus stood nearby, their patterns showing relief and something else, pride. You survived, they said simply. Though the doctors say it's impossible. The neural load should have killed you, even without the pressure damage. Harrison tried to smile, though her face felt strange. Humans, we're good at doing impossible things. The fleet? Most of your ships were crushed, Nixus admitted. But the crews, your emergency pods worked exactly as designed. Primitive technology, you called them. Simple pressure vessels with basic propulsion. But they saved hundreds of lives. And the crystallites? Gone. Completely. The combined quantum sonic pulse didn't just destroy their lattice, it shattered their entire molecular structure. Our scientists are still trying to understand exactly how it worked. Harrison closed her eyes, feeling the lingering echo of the neural interface. We did it together. Your understanding of quantum fields, our willingness to use brute force when needed. Neither approach would have worked alone. Yes, Nixus agreed, their patterns showing deep thought. We have already begun redesigning our defenses. Simple physical barriers backed by quantum fields. Sonic weapons guided by quantum senses. Old and new, working together. They paused. The Council has voted to formally request an alliance with Earth. We have much to learn from each other. Good, Harrison said, already feeling sleep pulling at her. But next time maybe we try something less likely to crush us all into quantum dust. Nixus's patterns showed amusement. Spoken like a true Deathworlder. Rest now, Commander. When you recover, there are several thousand Meridian scientists eager to learn more about your primitive solutions. As Harrison drifted off to sleep, she reflected that sometimes the greatest victories came not from being the most advanced, but from remembering your roots while reaching for the stars. The Meridians had evolved beyond physical weapons, but humans had kept every tool they'd ever developed. In the end, that made all the difference. Deep in the oceans of HD 789234, two civilizations began to learn from each other, combining the wisdom of the past with the promise of the future. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, the galaxy's other species began to reconsider their opinion of the primitive humans who had succeeded where the most advanced weapons had failed.